Now, I know all of you who love to dig into the satellite data will appreciate this, and maybe it might convert a few of you out there to start looking at the data like many of us are doing right now and have been. So, I've never done a review on COR 2, and I'll tell you why. That particular camera has just been beat up. Say literally, it gets huge doses of radiation. It's amazing. Its companion, Steroe B, has been shut down since 2014. They lost contact with it, and I hear, now I haven't seen anything recently on this, that they say that they're trying to revive it. So, and we're going to do a quick little review of the last images coming from Steroe B, because that one is truly the Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, the big mystery, because there's some weird stuff that was on that one. But not to digress. So, as you know, we had an event in May 10th that one of the cameras in a particular filter picked up something, and I did a video on that, as well as Steve over at WSO. And I said, well, why don't we just go ahead and do a day-by-day review? And let's see if we can find anything else going on that maybe we have missed. So it's important to understand where Steroe A and B are at. As you can see, they are in the same orbit as Earth, right? And just opposite of Earth, a little bit off to degree. You can see Steroe A is right here. Steroe B, be no more. So when we look at pictures coming from Steroe A, Steve and I did a in-depth video on this, that remember the images are reversed. So that helps sometimes as well, kind of get your perspective, because, space is a big place, right? All right, so let's go and look at some pictures, and let's see if we can have a little bit of knowledge expanding, right? So what we're going to do is do a quick review here. So this is starting on May 1st. You can see the time code 195424. Now, I tried to keep each day as close to the previous day's time code, but that's very difficult to do, because how they actually download these images, they're not always congruent in a chronological order. So, but I try to keep it within about 2 to 3 hours. So there is on the 2nd. Now, pay attention to this right here. That's something going by, something here as well. And you'll really begin to see this as well. Very clearly, something in the background. Don't know what it is. I often find as well is that with this camera, if you study it, and there are people out there that do, some good YouTube channels that have really get in depth on this, and if you get in tune to it, you can see why. It's very compelling to look at what's going on and passing from this camera's view. And you can see that this object is here. And notice here, so to explain a little bit here, I'm going to bring this up. So, point of reference, this is the sun, right? This is the corona, and there is an arm that sticks out that actually holds this. I find it interesting on this camera that it seems to vary. It's not consistent, and we see that as well. And we'll just continue. So this is the 5th. And just going day by day. This is the 10th. Very interesting because we didn't see anything, right? Well, I'll show you why. Now, I don't know what this is. I thought this was initially mercury. It is not. This is mercury, I believe, coming in. And we'll look at this. I'll also leave the links that you can do your own detective work as well. But I think that that is mercury. I could be wrong. Could be Venus, but I don't think so. You can really see it's the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st. So you can see that as it's getting closer here to the sun, there appears to be something going on here. Could be just the way that the camera is seeing the planet that we get those type of views. So now what I want to do is to go back on the 10th, right? That's the one where we had the objects passing by. And I went back in to Integrated Space and went in and downloaded from their link of COR 2. And there's a number of different cameras on COR 2. There is a scientific data camera that picks up in a different light, has a different filter, and that's the one that actually picked up whatever that was that went by. So you can see here, this is 5:10, 13:24. Now the one where the camera picked up was 13:09. Now this is again a from the scientific data camera, filter, whatever you want to call it. I find it, you can really see very distinctly that that is a planet, Mercury. So here we go. Now on this camera, or this filter, we can see that the time code matches perfectly, 13:09:35. Now, what I find interesting about this is that I could not find that object at all, but this is not Mercury. I don't know what this is. It has to be something else, but this filter is picking up something right here as well. And what, I don't know, but it picks us up. And then when we look at continuation, you can see that it picks up that object very well. Now, here's the object, the picture in question. I did a whole video on this. So in this filter, in this version, you can clearly see that the camera picked up something. Now, I spent nearly 2 decades in the video post-production industry. And back in the day when we had to use, Paintbox to actually generate effects, that what this would be considered is a reflective surface. Now, if you have a surface, then what we want to do is be able to have the light reflect off of the surface, right? And then in order to make it to have depth, you would give it a 3D effect by giving it the light shadows. And then you would have basically a 3D object. I don't know what we have here. I do find it interesting that when you really magnify this and you start, and it's not pixeling out. This is what's really great about this particular camera or filter. It's the object right here. You can clearly see an outflow of light. So on second look at this, the data is just remarkable. And the same holds true for whatever these are. Again, light reflecting surface, right? giving it depth, glow, and then giving it mass. Mass would always be represented by something darker. So maybe it's just this camera, this filter, I don't know. People have asked about this. This shows up in all of it. I don't know if it's just the camera is scarred or what. I don't know, because it doesn't show up in the others. So who knows? Maybe it's the tabby star. I don't know. But nevertheless, you can see. Now, and this is the frame 1254. So it's right before those objects show up. And again, all we have is our bright little friend there. Taking into consideration that things move fast in space. I mean, we now know that there's objects that can move millions of miles in an hour. So you look at a viewpoint of that camera where we saw it. So again, here's what I believe to be Mercury. And you can really see the definition. I mean, that's just spectacular. Almost gives you the illusion that there's some sort of reaction going on. I think that's just the intensity of being so close to the sun. And a little, but again. Now, I went here. These are images again, just different filters. And you can see the difference. All right, and those were the, if you remember, I did a whole video on these. I mean, you can clearly go in there and see it for yourself. But yeah, whatever that was, I do believe this camera picked it up very well. All right. I said I would do a quick little review on Steroe B. And I just got to tell you, this camera, I mean, maybe it was catching something the powers to be didn't want us to see. Or, you know, maybe there was someone out there that didn't want us to actually see what may be really going on. And I'll tell you why I find, you can go in the archives. I'll leave the link on this, and you can go there and do your own study on it. But it's quite fascinating, because the very first thing you have to deal with is this, is that, as I explained, this is the sun. This is supposed to be covering the corona, right? Now, unless the corona on the sun has an extreme deviation from the center of what would be the ecliptic line, right? Then we got some real mysteries here. And this is a strange one, folks. It really is. So always something up here. Now, I don't know. Like I said, it could have been the camera malfunctioning. I don't know. There is a good amount, I think it's a year and a half, of pictures from this particular Steroe B that is just, it leaves you wondering. So, all right. Now, there's obviously CME, but now check out this. You can actually see the waves here. I'll zoom in. You can actually see whatever this is. Now remember those weird spike things? What I could never figure out was that, well, maybe it could have been part of the camera, part of, you know, the blocking mechanism to get it lined up on the corona. I mean, that's what this camera was designed to do, right? Well, why would then we get light off that? I don't know. Now, I'll go through, I got about a dozen of these that I think I went off. So, here we go again. You can see how they're really, I don't know. Listen, you could take two paths on this. You could say, well, they were having real problems because this camera was having issues for some reason. Where it was at, it was getting higher doses of radiation. I don't know. But I do know this, that this is definitely off-center. It's just all you can say. And look at here. Now, I don't know. The next couple ones get even stranger. Now look at this one. So what are we getting the effect here? Well, is this an outflow of the corona getting larger? And if this was part of this blocking mechanism right within the camera itself on the satellite, well, then why would we have the light breaking here? Wouldn't it be just the opposite? That if it was part of this obfuscating portion right here, that this would be somewhat consistent? And if you really look close at here, now I don't know. I mean, logic would dictate that you would have to say, well, it's part of the internal mechanism of the camera. I don't know. And again, this is just, and it makes me suspect that maybe it was initially a part of the camera that was malfunctioning here, but you begin to see those same type of wave effects. I don't know. Back out, and we'll continue on. Now it seems to disappear, right? Wrong. There it is. And it's the way it allows the light in here that just, I'm questioning. But that's just me. Again, we get that effect, and you can clearly see. Now look at this one. I don't know what's going on here because, first of all, I don't know if we're looking at an illusion that this is a complete circular, 360 degrees, because it looks almost like it's cut off, right? But then again, it could be because of whatever this is. Now, look at this. This is odd. I'll zoom in here. You can see why I'm suspicious that there's something else going on. I mean, it could be it's merely getting light that's being blocked by this. But I'm suspect just the way the definition is happening here. Yeah, and again, subject to one's interpretation, isn't it? And then again, look at this. See where I'm coming from? Always up here. Don't know. Like I said, since the camera quit talking, it's hard to say. But it did catch some spectacular images. Look at this huge CME. This is February the 2nd, 2014. And again, look how these... I mean, if this is representative of the center of the sun itself, then the corona is just not what I was taught. I know there's deviation to the corona. Listen, yeah, I mean, we can see that on SDO, but then again, okay. One more here. I'd like to hear your comments on that. You think it's part of the camera? You think it's part of the blocking mechanism? I don't know. But you can clearly see what's going on in that one. And then I thought I'd just go ahead and do one of our composite going on. So this one's weird. Keep tracking that. I don't know what that is. And what I'm finding out as well, I'm going to show you one other video from the month of May from Steroe, and I will leave the link. But I think you'll find that interesting as well. This is H1. Check this out. I mean, I tell you, our solar system, as it continues to move through the cosmos, I'm always fascinating to see more and more what they're not planets. I don't know what they are. You know, we can look on a number of different programs, but it just, and this is just my opinion, that the space seems to be getting a little more crowded out there. I am one of that subscribe to the fact that I believe our solar system, our quadrant of the galaxy, has moved into a debris field. And it's just my humble opinion, just by the data that we see. I always find it interesting how the sun and how the camera is picking up the sun's reflection on the backdrop. And you know, when you look at these photos and you get the stills from them, it's quite fascinating. Well, I'll tell you what, while we're here, let's just maybe do a little inverting. See, you can really begin to get a whole different perspective on what that background looks like. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I'll leave the links and let me know what you think.